Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about some scrapped abilities that were once in the game or were early concepts from the design of Overwatch that didn't make it into a playable or final build. Now the truth is, a lot of Overwatch topics have been covered to death, but we really tried hard to find things that were never covered before and are a little more niche. In doing that, not everything in this video is just a scrapped ability, but some are even different facts and development processes that various heroes went through before they were finalized. And honestly, some of these facts are super interesting, and I found making this video a lot more enjoyable because of it. However, if you also find it enjoyable and a fun video, then why not hit the like button, subscribe for some future content, and let's just jump straight into this. So first up, we're actually going to be taking a look at Mercy, and no, not her old resurrection, may it rest in peace. We're instead going to be taking a look at her original design, in which stems from a playable class that was from a cancelled project, Titan. For those who don't know, Titan was Blizzard's first game that they were working on before cancelling it to do Overwatch instead. Originally, Mercy would have been a part of a Guardian class that was envisioned to wield a heal beam and a weapon called a Stinger, with abilities also named Salvation and Resurrection. Some of these, such as the heal beam and Resurrection, were obviously transferred over to Overwatch, while Salvation and Stinger seem to have been changed. I mean, unless her current gun was the idea of the Stinger, then I'm not too sure. Something more interesting, however, is that she was also envisioned about kind of having a teleport, which is kind of insane to imagine. Her original name was actually going to be Angelica, which is what inspired her real name, which is now Angela. Her code name, however, was actually originally going to be Farah, but then later renamed to Mercy. Now, it's definitely interesting to try to theorize what Stinger and Salvation would have been. Maybe Stinger would have been an alternate version of her pistol that was more powerful for her to be more aggressive, and Salvation may be tied to the teleport idea that they had. Of course, there is no way of telling, but it's super interesting to think about. Moving from there, we're going to discuss Reaper's early design, and similar to Mercy, he had an original stem to do with the cancelled game, Project Titan. In the original plans, he was always supposed to wield 2 shotguns, but also a magnum, which is kind of scary to imagine. Death Blossom and Shadow Walk was also always planned since the start, which is cool to think about. However, something interesting was that some of his early concepts presented a slimmer design with a mask that made him look a lot more human-like. On top of that, he was holding dual SMGs, which is even scarier to think about. Another concept was having his Wraith form heal him, which would have been very interesting. I mean, could you imagine a Wraith walking healing Reaper with 2 SMGs and a big magnum, kind of like what McCree has? I know McCree's a revolver, but still, just to shoot from long range as well. I mean, imagine if he had both short range burst and long range. I don't know. The Reaper that they imagined was definitely some crazy next level hero that's probably better off not being in the game. Alrighty, moving on to our next concepts, we have Reinhardt and Bridget. These two are being grouped together because they had some interchangeable adjustments that were planned in their early stages. So Bridget was actually planned to be an actual paladin nicknamed Pally. Her armor was going to be more akin to a fantasy archetype, and instead of the lion symbol, she would have held a sun symbol. Even more interesting, however, is that the flail and the shield combo was actually previously designed to be given to Reinhardt during his early prototype. Another big thing was that Bridget also had a sword and mace concepted for her weapon instead of the flail to try a more traditional approach. These concepts are interesting to imagine. I mean, other than Genji's Dragon Blade, we don't have anything resembling swordplay. It's definitely something I wouldn't have minded seeing. Imagine some sort of super knight hero in Overwatch. Oh boy, that would be insane. I definitely wouldn't put it behind Blizzard to actually make something like this in the future with a sword and shield. And I'll be waiting. Alright, next up we have good old Torbjorn. Originating from the playable engineer class that was supposed to be in Project Titan, he actually wielded a nail gun and sledgehammer. He also had an ability named Large Sentry and Teleporter. The Sentry is self-explanatory, but the Teleporter, I have no idea. It's simply insane. However, as you guys probably guessed, this was later given to Symmetra, but man, can we appreciate the imagination of seeing Torbjorn wielding a nail gun. That'd be pretty amazing and super funky. On top of all this, he had a different concept as well. In early Overwatch, he was nicknamed Ironclad and was envisioned with a grav hammer and abilities called Slam and Bowling Ball. Now, to be fair, I'm not too sure I want to know what Bowling Ball would have been, but I also kind of wish it was a tiny Torbjorn throwing a big bowling ball. Who knows, but man, did they have some funky and cool ideas for this guy. Now, moving forward, we have early concepts of Pharah with some pictures that were taken straight from Blizzard's headquarters, just for you. As we can see, the original design of Pharah was always to have a rocket launcher with a jetpack, but she apparently went through a lot of different concepts that had various themes, as we can see in the pictures. She had a very heavily themed mech concept at the start with this awesome looking black armor and an insane looking weapon. She also had a much chunkier look that sort of matches the idea of kind of what Diva is. I can also see a male version of some sorts that personally reminds me of Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. However, the most interesting one is this griffin animalnoid kind of thing that awesome just at the bottom is labeled Jetpack Hero. I'm not exactly sure what the idea was, but it honestly looks insane. And it's insane how many variations and varieties that they went through. The amount of planning and brainstorming always amazes me. Anyways, onward from there we have Junkrat, more specifically an ultimate that's quite different than what he has now. Actually, it's very, very different from what he has now. So hitting you guys with some original pictures, here we can see that Junkrat's original ultimate ability was a giant shoulder-mounted missile. This was apparently a homing missile that would have been interesting to see for sure, but apparently it was considered visually confusing during gameplay. So they decided to go back to the drawing board, and that's where Riptire was born. But imagine just playing Junkrat, the same even animation, you know, when he kind of crouches and winds up the Riptire, but instead pulls out a big missile. It fits his character so well that I understand why it was first concepted. Too bad we'll never see it, but I appreciate the idea. Okay, last but not least, we have both the loved and hated Moira. So in Moira's initial gameplay, she was actually supposed to have a large health pool. This was because she would spend it as a resource to heal allies while draining from enemies' health to replenish herself. However, this proved to be insanely difficult to balance, and I can see why. They'd have to ensure that she heals enough without killing herself, while making sure she heals enough back from the enemies without being too overpowered, which could make her kind of a strong DPS, in which she kind of already is, so only imagine if this system was implemented instead. It's probably better that they went with what they did. Moira is interestingly one of the few characters in the game to have both hands visible on the screen at all times. Great care was taken with her animations to convey how these different abilities worked and reflected in her design and her personality. Her Fate ability was also designed to be similar to Reaper's Wraith form, showing that the two characters are connected. Another big thing is that the original version of her ultimate ability was a transformation that involved biotic energy swirling around her and then having her use that biotic energy to shoot out a beam that could both heal and damage. But as they were playtesting, the beam was the most interesting aspect, so they kind of got rid of all the transformation and cool stuff and focused on her beam. However, I can't help but imagine what it would be like for her to maybe mix abilities a little more and maybe even just have a different ultimate altogether. With all that being said, it is just about time to wrap up this video. Let's end this off by asking you guys what change or original concept you wish actually existed, or at least would have loved to try out. For me, it's definitely Torbjorn with a nail gun. I mean, come on. Anyways, if you did enjoy the video, then hit the like button, subscribe for some future content, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.